to Arkansas. There have been at least 5 storm-related deaths. More than 5,000 people are staying in shelters, and 500,000 residents are still without power. Extra line crews have been called in from out of state to help, working 16-hour shifts. Mississippi today, some relief. Lower lake levels eased the water pressure on a rain-weakened dam. Thousands near the Louisiana border had been evacuated in case the dam collapsed. Now, some are headed home.
I was just praying that they could get a hold on it and stop it from breaking.
Meanwhile, back near New Orleans, the cleanup began in Slidell.
This was a watermark from Katrina.
A bad case of deja vu for Frank Jackson. He just reopened his soda shop a month ago after taking in 5 feet of water during Katrina.
I mean, I know to a lot of people this is devastating. People have been through it a few times. We just, you clean up and you move on.
Many of the people we've met here are struggling to stay positive, but this stubborn water, Brian, is testing their patience.
Gabe Gutierrez to our west, Laplace, Louisiana tonight. Gabe, thanks. Now back here to New Orleans. We're alongside the shore of Lake Pontchartrain here, but that's not it behind us. There isn't supposed to be water standing here behind us. Across the lake, as Gabe said, in towns like Slidell, Mandeville, they're cleaning up a mess. A lot of mud, a lot of standing water. New Orleans is used to storms and yet haunted by this week's anniversary. The place is still a bit off balance after Isaac. The French Quarter is open and bustling, but then again, it most always is. Elsewhere in New Orleans, it really feels like the aftermath of a hurricane. A huge portion of this area is still without power, including a lot of traffic lights, responsible for 38 traffic accidents as of this morning.
50,000 people have been evacuated from Tangipahoa Parish.
Mayor Mitch Landrieu has been going nonstop and knows this was a big test of all this new construction, and they got more hurricane than anyone was counting on.
Isaac proved once again that whether it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, these storms are unpredictable. And they're deadly, and in some instances, a Category 1 storm for some people can be actually worse than what they went through during Katrina. So
we met Landrieu at a famous local spot, the 17th Street Canal, famous for what happened here 7 years ago this week, visible from where we stood. This is actually pretty simple.
Yes.
7 years ago today, there was a hole where we see that patch in that levee. Thus, everything we see here in the foreground, right?
That's exactly right. When Katrina came in, that storm blew in and it blew out. It wasn't until the afternoon of Monday when somebody came in and said, Governor, I have bad news, a levee breached. They were talking about the breach here and the breach in the lower 9th Ward. And that breach, that breach right there, that's about 500 yards long, is the breach that flooded the city.
Everywhere you go in this city, the strange feeling of this anniversary is inescapable. For example, this is part of what we aired on Nightly News 7 years ago tonight. Where is the aid? It's the question people keep asking us on camera.
Brian, it's an absolutely fair question. And I got to tell you from the bottom of my heart how sad I feel for those people. The federal government just learned about those people today. And I've got to tell you, we are moving heaven and earth to give pallets of food and water to those people.
In the time since those awful days, the storm that claimed 1,800 lives, New Orleans has spent these 7 years, and the government has spent over $10 billion strengthening the ring around this city to control the water. What it leaves out is places like Plaquemines Parish, which runs south of the city clear down to the Gulf. They have to build up their own defenses, which often seems like a personal crusade of the parish president, Billy Nungesser.
I've never seen anything like this, and I've been through Katrina, Rita, Gustav, and Ike. My home, for instance, has more damage than it did for Katrina, and the debris is piled 10, 15 feet high against the levees in some places.
There is the feeling here that time and tides are working against the land, and the clock is ticking on efforts to fortify this stretch of the Gulf. And for those folks in Plaquemines Parish this time of year, their eye is always on the next one. But for us, about this last one, Weather Channel meteorologist Jim Cantore is still here, even though this weather system has moved elsewhere. First of all, I just read tonight at the height of it, it reversed the flow of the Mississippi River back up to the north.
That's why it's so important to pay attention to where the storm comes in, who is to the right of that center, and obviously it tells us how much power is with that wind bringing that water upriver. Let's talk about this storm again. It's currently sitting in southwestern Missouri. Still very heavy rain and severe weather threat going on through here. And look at this. We still have these rain bands extending all the way down into Louisiana and Mississippi. As a matter of fact, Brian, we may have a few showers right here where we're standing. This is a look at the rainfall of the last 72 hours. I mean, isolated amounts of 20 inches in spots. 7 rivers are in major flood stage. And that area of pink and white is larger than New England and represents an area of 8 inches plus. So that's a huge area of rainfall, which we can still add to. Now, who gets it as we go forward in time with the storm in Missouri, northern Missouri, Illinois, and Indiana? All the rain they get, they will not be complaining about.
Jim Cantore with us here in New Orleans. Jim, thanks, buddy, for all your coverage all these many days of this big storm.